like 2 miles away from Ferguson. It's like right where I grew up.
Okay.
So all that, shit that happened was literally like...
It's like in your backyard.
Like where I grew up, basically, like I would ride my bike to Ferguson and stuff when I was like a kid. So like I grew up Catholic, but then some crazy shit went down in my Catholic school with this kid. Long story. Maybe we can get that later. But then I ended up going to public school, and that was like just eye-opening. I went from like 100 kids in kindergarten to 8th grade to like, 70% African American thrown in there, and it was I'm glad it happened though, because like now I look back at it and like it made me kind of who I am and opened my eyes up a lot earlier than I would have if I would have stayed.
Yeah, and that kind of closed off like weird sectionalized kind of
blissful
thing.
ignorance
in my Catholic school uniform.
Right.
So
classic scared white boy.
Exactly. Yeah. So being from St. Louis, I guess when I really get going, I kind of do a little side talk.
No, you do. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, now I'm getting it.
My girlfriend always like, you say like Colin, and like you say accent. Your A's are like eh.
Yeah,
but
real sharp.
Really, like kind of East Coast. I'm I'm fucking like from St. Louis, man. So it's just interesting when I heard, hearing myself. I always think about that. But
yeah, you always think about how you sound or how you come off to other people.
Yeah,
like,
to us we sound like we have no accent. Yeah. We're just like it's just the way people sound.
I've been to maybe like 2 or 3 other states where it would be weird to have someone from the Midwest there, and all the time they're like, man, you sound like you're from like Texas or somewhere. You have like such a long draw. I'm like, no, not compared to actual Texans. Like,
you go to Texas and it's like,
to us, we're all geniuses here. We're highfalutin.
No, so this is interesting side fact before we hop in. Have you ever noticed, like, because I'm totally fascinated by accents, and I think I read a book in college by Bill Bryson, killer author, and he like went and did like a tour of all the different places in the United States and like wrote down and explained people's accents. And I read the book in like a day, and I've always wondered, have you ever thought about this? It's like when people from London or anywhere in England basically, when they sing, they don't have their accent anymore.
Yeah.
And I was like totally like, what? I'm totally fascinated by that. Like, why? Why is
really
that
weird?
Where does it go?
Anytime I hear someone like a new artist or a new band, and I notice something a little off or a little different about their voice, and then like months later I'll find out, they're British or they're from.
But it's
some
not like
different
their actual
country.
accent. It's just something like
the
different.
way that they pronounce a vowel or sing a vowel some way that's like a little different than us. But other than that, it's like a lot of the singing voices, aside from like totally different languages like Korean or Chinese, where they have no like semblance to what we say or how we form our words, but it's all pretty much on par with each other. Like, we all sing pretty much the same, but with like subtle little differences.
Yeah. Fun fact from that book is actually he found out that the closest, the people that speak the actual closest to how like the English language should be spoken are like Midwest Kansas City to like Kansas.
That's
it's the most correct.
Hell yeah.
What?
Yeah, like if you look at people who do like news, like anchors or like reporters and stuff, they all have like very perfect English, and most of them I believe are from like Kansas is like the place where like most, even like across the entire country, where they like all come from.
Yeah, I can't stand that voice though.
It's awful.
It's just something like not. It's like, talk to me how you would normally. Talk. That's how I want to hear the news.
Who started this weird like?
We could really dive into some stuff on local news that I'm upset about. We don't have time for that.
We could do a whole series of podcasts.
We'll have our own local
that.
news segment
Yeah.
about our local news.
This is the local news right here, I think.
Yeah. You know, ding, 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 ding. Today.
Right. Well, I guess we could introduce you as our friend, which we established earlier. We are now, we've
now
crossed
friends.
that threshold of Sean is our friend.
Guys, we're friends.
Yeah, this is this is Sean Stratton.
It's official.
Yeah, good. This is a brother from another mother
There you go.
type situation happening here. So,
Yeah.
but yeah,
The stars aligned.
they did, man. It's weird. It's weird how things line up and how you meet people and what things kind of like flourish out of these crazy collisions of like,
It's really cool because like every week is I meet someone new or like there's a totally new thing that happens in
Yeah.
my life because of this.
yeah.
I'm like, all right,
I'm just like,
I know every Saturday or Sunday or whenever something totally new will be happening,
yeah.
which is
And for me too. I mean,
yeah, it's fresh,
Yeah.
which is nice.
yeah. I'm just kind of like bringing.
It's not like we're like doing rocket science or anything, but we're having new experiences, which is fun.
Yeah, we're sitting down with people, and nobody's looking at their phones on Facebook. Everyone's very much right here, right now.
Yeah, man.
Which is, I mean, everyone we've done a podcast with so far is to me a better friend afterwards, or even during. Like, it's just an interaction that you just normally don't get with people nowadays. You do, but not very often. It's
You get
very
snippets
rare.
of it.
But it's kind of like a scheduled like a reminder of like, hey, let's just kind of sit and
Let's sit
like,
up in an attic
have some-
and turn the lights off.
just kind of commune with each other for take a little break from all the crazy shit going on around us.
Yeah, man. I'm really looking forward to being, I'm wondering what comes after friend because,
Yeah,
once this is over, we got
It's
the sky.
right,
infinite
exactly.
amount of possibilities going.
That's true. That's a good way to look at it.
Yeah.
It's just like the first step, kind of.
You just opened a bunch of new doors, basically.
Yeah,
To lots of little possibilities.
And that's, I think, the main reason we started this podcast. Jimmy's kind of just like helping me, and it's not. I don't want it to make it sound like it's my thing because it's not. It's our thing. But kind of had this idea. You kind of helped bring
it's
it to
your
life.
brainchild.
Yeah,
And I'm happy to come along for the ride and help however.
yeah,
I like running all the buttons, so
yeah.
that's fine with me.
yeah. And so that's kind of cool.
Yeah, that's a good segue. I think doors because like when I think about doors, they have a special meaning in my life, and it started when I was very young, and it was just probably because of the door I had growing up, but it never closed.
Like it just wouldn't stay
It wouldn't
closed.
stay closed. You'd have to physically, close it. Like it was just one of those doors that no matter what always opened.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't know. I just had a special feeling about like that. And everywhere I've went, there's usually been, or every place I've lived, there's been like one door, even in brand new houses, brand new apartments, that stays open. It won't close. So I think maybe that's something or whatever telling me like, that to me when you say that, it's like, man, that's I think what this is all about, right? Like when you said it, it's like, and I think it has a lot to do with what life's about. Is about what door are you going to go through, right? And if you stay on your phone or your computer, your door's shut.
Yeah,
Really, I mean, because
it's true.
you can't. I don't know. You can't go through. I mean, you can go through a lot. You can get lost
Yeah.
on your phone, but none of those doors are, really places you want to be at the end of the day. You still
Yeah.
got to come out of it.
Yeah.
When
they're
you're
not
in person,
fulfilling.
you're going through doors, and that door, once you're gone through it, you can't go back.
Yeah,
Which is, I don't know. I think that kind of cool aspect, and I think, maybe you guys having me on is what I talk about. Like when we talk about branding and different things like that kind of just one little thing I think is why I think I'm doing what I'm doing. You know, like I think everyone has this thing of like, why am I doing what I'm doing? You know, do I enjoy it? Why do I hate it? You know, am I just doing it for money? Am I doing it? You know, I really want to go do that thing, or that seems cool. Like I want to go do that. All these things, I think me in my life, I've come to this conclusion of it's about one kind of helping people find that space and time where time just goes away, right? It's like, and you know, hey, we're talking about branding, right? We haven't even really opened that door yet. But it is all the same, because I think when you first talk about like what is a brand, right? I think that it's one of the most confusing and misunderstood words, and I think in the English language, or in any language, I guess, is like, what is a brand? It's everything, right? Like it's every single feeling that you give out. Like, you know, who's ever listening, you have like yourself, if you're a brand. You know, each person, you have your own brand of who you are. But really what a brand is, when you know, I'm sure there's some crazy Webster's definition of what a brand is,
real dissected, and
which is nothing like it. All it is and this is what one thing Jake told me that always stuck with me is, you know, a brand, your brand, or whose ever brand, any brand, is the space that thing, object, company, whatever, occupies in people's mind, right? So it's a space, and what it is like whatever you're doing. So that's when I say it's everything. When you, no matter what you're doing, like let's say you have a website, let's just go example's sake, it's terrible, right? That's still like, you're still in people's minds if someone's looking at it, and you have like 5 seconds, probably less,
right,
to that split decision that someone's looking at what you're offering or what you're doing or what you're selling, to decide how much brain space they're going to give you. Like, okay, I know that this person has a shitty website. They probably, you know, they don't communicate well what they do. They're probably, you know, I'm not going to really pay that close attention to them.
Right.
That could just be one thing. It's really also depends on what you do, and who you're doing it for, right? Like, obviously, if you are a retirement community and you're dealing with older people who aren't on the internet, maybe a website isn't right. But I think the thing that, you know, if you still go high level, the space that you want to occupy always has to start with a feeling, right? Like, and it's the feeling that you're giving your followers, your customers, your clients, whatever that is. You know, that should be the first thing immediately, boom, that they feel. And it's like, okay, like that's what I wanted, right? Like I want to come to this thing. I either have, I'm trying to solve a problem. It really depends on, you know, what type of genre your brand is in. But it starts there, right? I think it always has, and that's really a hard thing, because you can't, the part of your brain, right, like that processes feelings, has no capacity for language. So you can't, it's extremely hard for people to say how they feel. Yeah. And then, I mean, like, put it in words, right?
That's one of the hardest things. That's why there's so many conflicts.
It's because your brain physically can't do it. Like, it can't process language. The part of your brain that, you know, causes feelings or intercepts feelings. Right. Feels the feelings, right? So it's, and that's the hard part. That's like the yin and yang of branding. So, you know, for me, bringing back to the very first thing of opening doors, or open doors, right? Like, that immediately is always be stuck in my mind as something that I relate to. I have this deep rooted connection with it. And if you can do that as a company or a podcast, or, you know, whatever you're doing, you're trying to gain a following. If you can go deep rooted immediately into someone's, you brain and stick there for good, for the better, obviously not for the worse.
Right.
That's your ultimate goal. And it takes a lot more than just a website and a logo off Fiverr.com to get you there, right?
Yeah, it's weird thinking about that now, how different brands that I have just known my whole life, when I think about them, like, just for an example, like Pepsi or something, like, just when I think Pepsi in my brain, it's not like it's like an amalgamation of every image that they've ever put out and just like a general feeling that I can't really describe. It's just like, that's them. That's
just, I know it. Yeah.
That's this thing that's always been here since I've been living.
Yeah.
It's a weird, like, creation of ours, but
yeah,
it's just like a good old classic thing that we have.
Yeah. You don't even really think about it. It's just there.
And it's weird seeing like new brands come out or a new company and then they have a logo or something, and I try to form a connection in my head, but it's never as strong as like one of the classics that you have just known for so long.
Yeah.
That their branding is just a part, it's like a staple of our American,
and it's that good
upbringing.
that it
that's weird.
That's the opportunity, I think, or the opportunity that those kind of legacy brands have. They just have so much equity already.
So much momentum going.
And that's the hardest part for anyone starting anything, is to get up that traction into that, like, okay, we're doing this now, or we're selling stuff, or we're getting people to follow us, or people are reading, or putting out whatever, to that next stage of almost that tipping point of getting into that the people you don't know about, the random people. It's like, that's the hardest part, I think, for anyone starting anything up.
Getting outside of the comfort zone of, here's
Friends.
the people that I know I can curate to, and definitely they'll like it, but I want to reach beyond that. I want to.
That's the hardest part for this, for sure, is like, it's definitely, and it's still awesome. Like, I still, even if it was just my friends listening to it forever, I would still do it. But getting past that is, it's hard to get people to realize, like, how much value this can add to their lives, I feel like. And I'm not saying this is like the gospel or something, but I know that
you should be thanking us, man. We're cheering you.
Right. I know that it has value. I know that because I've been told that it has value, but trying to get other people to realize that is very much the challenge, I think, and why they should even take 5 seconds out of their busy day to like click on a picture or a link or whatever and check it out.
It's another good example of like a failure, or maybe not a failure, but like it's just really hard to communicate with other people how much it, like exactly what it can do without with the vocabulary that we have. It's so hard to form a sentence into exactly, getting into their mind, like, here's what what it does, basically.
That's the hardest. The hardest part is saying everything that it is in as few amount of words as possible.
Right, because they're going to give you a split second to check it out or whatever. I mean, right?
Yeah, you have, I guess we can enter into the world of taglines, and you have your opinion. Everyone has an opinion about a tagline, but you have 3 words, 3 to 4. If you're good. And even now, I mean, I see commercials and companies like, just an example. I'm kind of going off tangent here, but I saw Target. I always, when I look at companies and everywhere, I always look at their branding commercials.
What's their tactic?
Target's on giant words on their building. They just redid the one by my house, and it says expect more, pay less.
Right, like, is it in big like green lettering?
No, it's not like absurd. They at least chose a good typeface.
It's tasteful.
But to me, that's like, what? I'm just like, what?
Yeah.
Expect more, pay less. I don't know. It's like that doesn't really kind of like
doesn't say much to me.
It doesn't say like, hey man, I really want to go shop at Target now that I read that.
That's just kind of a weird like thing to say to someone.
Here's the truth though about Target. It's like when you're doing branding, the most important part too is to tell the truth in what you do, right? Like, and I'm not just saying like, tell the truth. Yeah. Like, I don't want to get down this authenticity, road. Mm-hmm. But Target, you don't pay less when you go to Target.
No.
It's expensive.
Everyone knows it is more expensive.
I mean, like, their clothes are, I mean, you can find some decent deals on, like, clothes, but, like, everything else,
it's normally
I expect, you know what, I think the new tagline is, I expect to pay more.
Yeah, and that's just it.
Expect less, pay more.
There you go. See?
Yeah.
They took the exact opposite of what's happening, and
so it's like
we'll just say that we'll just lie.
Yeah,
this is what we want you to think,
right?
But it's not really what we do.
Well, and that's not the first thing I think of when I think of Target is cheap. You know what I mean? Yeah. I would go to like Dollar General or something and get the same bottle of Clorox bleach or whatever for like $4 less.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
You don't walk into Target and be like, man, I'm really glad I paid less for this item.
Yeah.
Man, I really saved a bundle.
Right.
No, I don't know. It's just like,
it's a weird. Like,
I could go on for days about it.
So you're saying the podcast needs a tagline?
Are you telling me that these companies are lying to me?
I think. I guess I could go into some examples, but like, I guess the process of how we kind of do it, and I think maybe later we'll get into some examples. You can see like a real life one. We're going to do a live, never before rehearsed branding session.
Yeah.
But more importantly, I think you could have someone being devil's advocate. I always kind of like to do that in my own mind and what I'm saying. Like, okay, is someone going to be like, hey, but what about this?
I feel like that's a healthy thing to have that the side of the argument.
Exactly. And I think there's running kind of like a branding shop or whatever you want to call what my business partner and I are doing. We come across all these companies that they need something, right? They want something, but what they really need is not what they say they want. And what I mean by that is when, let's say they really just need sales, right? And like you come to us for like heavy hitting, big rebranding stuff of how you should look and feel, not necessarily the deliverables to get you there, right? Like, so when I say deliverables, I mean like maybe a marketing team behind something pushing stuff out there, no matter if it isn't the best design thing or the best, because nothing's ever going to be perfect before you get it out there, right? Like, always coming from a business standpoint, I am, because before I got into this, I was, I owned my own business in college. We did marketing. We had a online ordering software back in the day to compete with, like, that was when, like, Papa John's and Domino's were like the only ones that came out with that. Like,
so you did like online like food delivery ordering?
Exactly.
Stuff like that?
Yeah. So what we did was had this we had technology that we licensed, and then we went to all the other restaurants that we knew we knew that online ordering was going to be this huge thing. And we knew that they didn't know how to do it, so we said, okay, not only can we bring you this whole system where you don't have to pay someone to sit on a phone and take orders. Yeah, you can just have people. I mean, all the advantages of online ordering are just easy. You can upsell things easily. You don't have to you make more money doing it, and you don't have to pay people.
Yeah, people feel more inclined to go on a website and order than they would be to call a restaurant.
Yeah, no one wants to call. Talk to people they don't know and place an order.
Somebody awkwardly try to upsell you.
Yeah. Like, would you like to add
buy a script
2-liter for an extra $2?
How about those crazy bites, huh?
Yeah,
they're only 99 cents today.
They are really cheap.
And you're like, well, you did corner me, so I guess I'll buy it.
You got me on those crazy bikes. But so we did that, and coming from that, that background of kind of just like that entrepreneurial, kind of mindset, I'm always like, what is it that really, when I'm talking to someone, what do they really need? Because sometimes they don't need the best designed logo or the best designed website. Right. Maybe they just need orders or sales or whatever. And so being like a designer first, like, kills me to say this, right? Like, but it's the truth, or how, at least what I believe. Like, something extremely well designed, the best looking thing ever. Like, I could build you guys, let's say, for example, like, my best logo, my best website design, my best, like, overall identity of what you're doing. But that's not really going to matter if that's all you guys do, right?
Yeah.
Like,
that's that podcast with a really cool logo.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I always say, like, if you guys are familiar with the movie Field of Dreams, it's like, the whole thing is like, if you build it, they will come. And I always tell people, if I build it, they're probably not going to come. Like, you got to do other stuff.
Yeah.
You got to
just one piece of the big puzzle.
Exactly. That's where it starts, right? Or where it should start. And if you can't afford there, or, you can't see that, I always say, like, something that is designed extremely well always loses. And just sits there, than to something that's designed okay, but it's just consistently put out marketing wise, right? So, like, let's take, for instance, like Geico is a good example, right? Like, they're just consistently putting out just like weird ass commercials.
Like, it's all like, sorry.
But that's the space they have in your mind, right?
They occupy that.
Because no one else did.
Right.
No one else went there. So, like,
there's no other Geico. They're just literally just, there's the weird lizard commercial people. That's them.
So, so that's their route into your space of your mind, right? It kind of sounds weird to put it that way, but, like, that's the whole kind of goal. And I think the biggest thing now is getting into, like, content and producing things. Like, you see Netflix coming up, and Amazon, and Hulu. I guess you could throw them in there. HBO has always had great content, and people have always paid for it. But what cable and local news don't understand is, like, it's the content, right? Like, that's going to, people want that. They want to be entertained. They want, and they'll pay for it. And they don't, it becomes like, how can you entertain me now? Yeah. So, like, no matter what it is you're doing, if you're just consistently producing, like, let's just say TV, for example, great shows, well, people who love great shows they're gonna get HBO Go or whatever. That's that space. HBO owns probably, if you think about top TV, or whatever you want to call it, premiere. That's HBO. No one else owns that.
Yeah, they have a whole demographic that is their own. It's just HBO viewers, or people, like, people that have had HBO their entire life.
Yeah, or someone gets hooked, and then they're like, I fucking love that show.
Game of Thrones is
Game of Thrones is probably hooked in so many people.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that tossed it up. Like, and even like Howard Stern, for instance, like, that dude, like, Sirius satellite radio should, like, bow down and, like, just literally.
I don't know what I can say. Their entire...
You can say whatever the fuck you want. Man.
They should give him. They should bow down and suck his dick every day, because literally if he leaves them, they're fucked.
Yeah, he is their station, essentially.
Yeah,
it's because it's because of the content. No one else. Why do you think they call him the king of media? Because no one else is doing or has done what he did. Like, he did what he wanted to do, right? But there were people out there that wanted to hear it, right? But no one's gonna be like, hey, I want to hear this dude talking to strippers and making girls orgasm on the radio.
Like, what's he gonna do today? That's another example of the branding, that when you say Sirius FM or that radio station, I just think of Howard Stern. Nothing else.
Yeah,
I don't know what else they do. So it's like, he definitely owns that.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of it is like, being strategic in what you're trying to do, as far as like, I always go back to this, but back to the whole consistency thing. Like, it depends on what you want to do. Like, if you just want sales or need sales, right? Like, that's always the first thing. Like, okay, let's see if this idea or whatever, like, we're trying to do, like, don't spend time trying to make it perfect, because you never will. Just go out there and get what you can to like the very like furthest you can go. And at the end of the day, it's a business, right? Like, so you have to be able to, one, make money, improve it. Everyone has a great idea, right? Like, everyone or thinks they do, but like, show me something, right? Like, that's why I love that I'm from Missouri, like, show me state, like, literally, like, show me, like,
make it.
hey, will you be on my podcast? Like, sure, yeah, show me. Now we're talking to you guys.
Here you are.
Right here. It's like, so that's the thing, is like, okay, do what you got to do in order to show someone, like, hey, this is working. I'm selling things, or people are following me. I'm getting ad sales, or whatever it is you're doing. I'm getting a following. People are reading my blog, or whatever.
Have an end goal in mind, and
just do it, like, because like, and the big thing is like, and I don't know who's listening to this, like, but wherever you are, like, a good kind of easy starting path, like, is to, one, hire at the beginning, if you're just starting, hire a really, really good designer branding team to help you get the initial brand going, right? Like, to launch. And then hire just people online to do all the smaller things, like running the marketing, or let's say, like, I think Jake is my business partner. Basically have us come up with something, like, he would write something, I would design it, like your brand guidelines of, this is what your typeface is, this is the colors you use, this is your new logo, this is how it should be, this is how it shouldn't be ever. So you have like this whole guideline in the beginning, and then obviously that you're going to take a hit on that at the beginning, but it's worth it, because then you should never ever have to talk to us again.
You have
you take this structure or plan, right, and then you just pass it to.
It's like a skeleton of everything that you can. It's very similar to what we do in music making. We always have a skeleton of like a song idea, and then you can fill it out later. But as long as it sticks within these parameters, that's
it's kind of it's kind of like a.
It might be a little more
like
free
genre,
form, but it's
almost like a genre in a way.
Yeah, and then you take that and you just go pay like let's just say, for example, and this isn't these are just numbers I'm throwing out. Let's say our rate is $200 an hour, or whatever it is. You're going to eat that at the beginning, but then go find another designer or someone at $50 an hour to do all your other stuff that you need. Let's say you need a flyer done, or you need this done. And don't bother me for flyers and things like that, because I don't want to do flyers.
Right.
Yeah, you have your own target kind of.
I think the
people that you're aiming for.
The best way, if you just meet me on the street, you're like, hey man, what do you do? I would say I would say probably I'm the cleanup hitter. People call Jake and myself to come in to, one, kind of clean up what you've started. Most of the time it's a mess. It's something, which is really cool, because there's something there that people are always trying to do, and they just need a little shift, and maybe in a right way, or tweaking here, and then they're off. And that for me is what I really enjoy. Is
that pretty gratifying when you see someone like have their idea kind of flourish, and they didn't even realize it was like what they really wanted.
It's like that moment when they're like, like, aha, finally, like
that's that light bulb.
And it's always for me, like, especially when I'm designing logos, like, that's probably my favorite thing to do. One, because it's difficult, and two, because you have to literally convey every single thing anyone's trying to do in like this tiny little mark. And then that tiny little mark, has to be like distinguishable from all those other millions and billions of tiny little marks people are putting out. And how do you do that? Like, I still don't know, it's just a feeling that I pull out from anyone I'm doing a logo for. But what I really enjoy about the logos is like and I think about it when I go into it is like, this logo should never change, hopefully, if I do my job right.
Right.
And I always think like this, in however many years, or if this person has kids and they have kids, like they're gonna say and look and say, like, one day they're gonna look up at that logo, and to them it's gonna be like Pepsi to you, right?
Yeah.
Like it's gonna be, I'm not saying probably none of my logos will ever be as big as Pepsi, but it doesn't matter. What only matters is that, that grandchild, or that whoever it is, it doesn't have to be grandchild, sees that logo and thinks like that's grandpa, and has like that feeling with it, right? Like, and they're impressed, like, man, look at that, like that was grandpa's fucking logo. That's a dope ass logo,
Right.
Like it's still going strong.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. And I think, and then it passes along, and then it just kind of keeps going.
they can inspire other logos too. Like lots of knockoff logos and different styles of art and everything.
Oh, that's how all art is. It's just stealing from other people.
Yeah, steal it and tweak
Stealing,
it a little
like,
bit.
like 4 to 5 different things, and then coming up with your own spin.
Yeah.
That's how most good music
like
is made.
that's
too.
Hopefully it doesn't, look too
Don't
much
give
like
away
that.
all the
that's-
secrets.
It's
man.
just inspiration. It's a.
I got a peach. I'm gonna. That's my next logo, and there's gonna be a bite out of it.
Yeah,
And I'm
a
gonna-
peach instead of an apple.
It's going to be for some
I'm gonna put it. It's the new Windows logo.
yeah,
new Upstarter PC.
yeah, but-
That'll be the new AI logo.
right. Yeah, you pretty much did explain pretty much where I feel like I'm at with most things I'm doing is kind of right at that like tipping point of there's something that I'm not doing, and I mean I'm just now still trying to like apply myself in all this too, so I haven't really given it a fair try yet. I mean, we're 11 episodes in, I mean, so it's, you know what I mean, but
It's better than 0 episodes.
it is, but
It's
I
good
mean,
to have momentum.
yeah,
behind.
but as far as, and like my music is kind of the same, in the same vein. It's like right at that, like, man, there's just something that I'm
Yeah.
missing here.
I feel like for me personally, it's just like a lack of discipline and like sitting
Yeah.
down and just saying to myself, like, I know I want to do this thing, like make music or whatever it is.
Right.
I just need to like set aside that time to do it and
Yeah.
like, make time in the day instead of like playing video games or whatever.
Right.
Another easy like get out of jail for free card. It's like, well, I can burn 4 hours like watching Netflix or whatever and like napping,
Yeah.
or I can like sit down and engage myself and like challenge myself. But I'm pretty tired, so I think I'll
Right. No,
just
I
veg
get
out
that.
or whatever.
I get that for sure. It's like it's something that's not comfortable. So you're
Yeah,
you're
I mean,
naturally like
it's always great afterwards, though. It's like
yeah, no, you
it's
do it and you're
elating.
like, what the
Yeah.
fuck have I been doing for a month not doing this?
yeah,
Or-
it's always like a good reminder to just like actually like forget about like the day-to-day grind of like, okay, I gotta wake up tomorrow and go to work, and then what am I gonna do when I get off work? I'm gonna
Right.
cook dinner and like do all this bullshit. It's like, what do I want to do? What would I ideally be doing
Right.
if I didn't have to make money and pay bills and shit?
Yeah.
So if you just think about it like that, you're like, okay, I can set aside some time to do that one thing that I know I will always want to do.
Yeah.
And it kind of makes it easier to at least get the process started, but it's still a big challenge every day.
Yeah.
To just find motivation.
Definitely.
And I think that's a good kind of transition too. Is like when like the process of like what we're about to get into is like any time I'm doing like a logo or we're doing like a brand discovery or kind of kickoff call, like people say like I have a company and we do X, Y, and Z, right? Like, okay, well, I'm not. Why do I care about that?
Right.
What do I do with that?
Yeah, like, okay, that doesn't inspire me to do anything. it's not inspiring any of your customers or people you talk to or anyone. Like, don't ever say like what you do.
Yeah, we're Bill's hat factory.
Yeah.
Like, buy our hats.
Yeah, like, hey, like,
Make hats for Bill.
Like tell me a story of how you solve problems for people, and then, like, maybe I have the same problem.
Sell it to me a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, tell me a story. Like, that's really kind of what this whole, like, branding is getting into, is like stories. And where do we find stories? And we find them in the people behind the company, because literally, like, a company is not really a company. It's people. There's people there, right?
Yeah.
And people want. Yes, there's certain exceptions to this rule. Like, I go get my car washed at the car wash because it's closest to me, right?
Yeah.
Or whatever. Like, they don't really need to do branding, right? Like, they solve a problem. My car's dirty. You fucking have a washer.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna just sit there, and you're closest to my house. Like, that's,
It's like gas stations. Like,
yeah,
I need gas. I'm going to the gas station.
Right.
And that's like the fun part, is like, yeah, exactly. Gas, like, that's what you need. Like, they need just sales, like, whatever. Like, that's their strategy. That's like their brand. But when we're talking about like digital, right? Like, you really have to focus in on what you're doing. And why you do it, and also what problem do you solve? Like let's say for a podcast, for example, like entertainment, right? I mean, or like they're getting something out of it, like they're learning. So, but it always starts with that person who's behind it, and what those values and what they believe, about life in general, what they have. So, my job is to really download your brain, right? Like, take a deep dive in there, right? Off the high dive, and I got to really wiggle around in there and figure out what drives this person, because whatever that is what's driving this company. It could be a number of different things. Like, one of my clients, money was their main driver.
Right.
It was this, hey, I believe that if I get enough money, no matter how I get that money, like, people will, like, that's how I want to be viewed in the world. And it's very ego driven, right? Like,
For sure.
And so they didn't, after, asking like 5 questions, I understood, like,
You're like, oh,
okay, I know what this person's about,
Yeah.
And there was hope there that it wasn't, but at the time we had lost a client and we really needed another client. So it was like, now I got to work with this guy who I know is just in it for the money, and doesn't care about anything else, and that was another struggle. But you take a deep dive into it. Like, for example, like, Jake, my business partner, is a writer. That dude is, and I don't say this just because we grew up, we're friends. Like, there's certain people, and I'm sure people out there listening, when you read someone's writing, and you just start seeing like images. Like, to me, that's how I judge how good of a writer you are. Is how well your words can paint pictures in my mind. Jake does it at almost every single time. If it's not, I'm like, dude, what's wrong with you?
Something's off.
Like, what the fuck is this?
That catapults me back into like reading like Harry Potter, like that level of like, oh my god, there's a movie happening in my head before there was even movies, like, exactly. of that. Yeah, kind of the same thing. And so
when I was doing his logo, it was really fun. One, challenging, because he's one of my best friends, also business partner, but he's getting a decent like following just in like blog posts and things that he's putting out there on medium.com and things like that. Jake Houska, if you want to go look him up.
Houska.
Yep.
Okay.
Bingo.
Shout out.
Houska. No, but he takes a really fun, interesting view on it, and even in high school has always been a writer. He wrote, I think, in like junior year, a piece on Chinese buffets and why we were like the kings of them, and basically how to eat as much food and get the most like food exactly in your system.
That's something I've always wondered. Like, I'm sure everyone's had that thought. Like, how can I milk this for the most value? Yeah, that's hilarious.
You really got to dive all the way in. It's like he went scientific on it. Yeah. Basically, your body doesn't know you're full until after 8 minutes of eating. So you could eat as much food in that 8 minutes.
That's a real strategy right there.
So that was the he did a lot. He did a lot of research. He did
a lot of good in the world with that.
So when he wrote that, I knew, like, okay, man, this is what you're gonna do. So in figuring out him and just knowing him, right? Like I didn't have to ask him these questions because I knew already. You find out like about people, and I think we were talking about this earlier off air, like who they are when they subconsciously do things. Like everyone just like, you're really gonna find out everything you need to know about someone if you ride in the car with them.
Yeah.
You're going to know what kind of car they have. That says everything about that person. And then how they drive that car. It's extremely important. So if you pay attention to those two things, and that's it. That's all you need. You don't even have to talk to them or ask them questions.
Pretty true, yeah. I also pay attention to the way people listen to music in the car and, like, their habits of even the etiquette of who chooses the music and volume. I'm very subconscious about, I'm like, I have to have it at a, not too loud, but I want the option there for the person. If they want to crank it, they can.
Volume is real comparable to like speed.
Yeah.
Like how fast they're driving and how quickly they feel like they need to get somewhere.
It's pretty.
I think you were talking about that the other day too, about like riding with somebody that's just like out of fucking control, for like no reason.
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah, something else at play there if that's how you drive everywhere.
Lots of something pent up.
Yeah, speed racer coming out and subconsciously.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, hey man, you need to like chill out a little bit or something.
Turn it down.
Yeah. No, like that's so I knew like about Jake as an example, and playing sports is another one too. Like I played all sports growing up. Basketball was one of them, and Jake played as well. But he actually didn't make the team, which is always something he's been butthurt about for a long time, and I'm always the first one to bring it up. Remember when you didn't make the team? But he, and then this is why, is because he just, you know, any basketball people out there, I guess, you know, you would understand this analogy, but when he gets the ball, he just puts his head down, drives straight to the basket, no matter what, even if there's three people standing there.
That's how I feel I would play. no sense of no awareness of what's going on.
And so, like, and if you parallel that to how he acts in his life, it's eerily similar, right? Like, in most of all situations, if someone's not there to say, "Hey, pass me the ball, man." Like, don't go in there with those three people. Don't do this one thing, or like, even if you go do that, that's how you're going to do it, because that's how you do things. Like, no one should ever change that part. I'm not saying that he should change any part of that. But just my job and our job is to recognize that pattern people have, and then now we can pull that pattern out, and then okay, we use this one thing here to tell a story. So Jake drives to the hoop. You know, in everything he does, or most things he do. So you know, one of two things. He's either gonna just drive extremely in there. He's gonna score, or he's gonna turn the ball over. You know? Like, so you know those one of two things.
50-50 shot.
Yeah. So you have to realize, like, to me, when I was doing his logo, and this is early on logo days when I wasn't really exactly sure of what I was doing or how I was doing it. I would just really come up with as many designs as I could and be like, nah, this is it. And if I didn't feel it, and he was like, no, I like that one, I'm like, no, that's not it. And I had one that was, his last name is an H, and it's in the shape of like just dots, like dice have numbers. There's 6, obviously a die has 6 numbers, and everyone knows that. Jake's has a 7, so his dice, he's basically trying to roll a 7 with 1 dice, and that's his logo. It's cool. It's literally the 6s on the end, 1 dot, 2 dot, 3 dot, 1 dot, and then the middle holding it all together is that 7th dot. And I didn't see it at first. He saw it. He's like, "That dude, whoa!" Yeah, you know. And
like
that one,
all or nothing, like, kind of mentality associated to
exactly. Yeah, it's like, and the middle dot is orange. Another thing that one other important question I always ask people is like, "What's your first memory?" Right. Try to think like really back, like, you know, honestly, first, like, memory. I always say like the first memory that meant the most, that you felt the most about. And Jake's was, he just remembers seeing like the sun, just orange, bright orange, and just feeling like that warmth. So we put that orange
Cool.
right in the middle, you know? So it's like little things like that, you know, even very detailed. You got to kind of go in there and ask the questions. For me, for example, like my first memory was the strongest one was in kindergarten. Again, I went to Catholic school. There's not a lot of people, and I was, I'm in no means a big dude, but when I was little, I was bigger than everyone else. Like, I was just a big kid, and so like, and I've always been very talkative. Always, like, I'm an only child, so I never had like brothers or sisters to talk to. So I always wanted to go, you know, I was like, hey,
find some brothers and sisters,
other kids that, you know, that look like me. There's things, so I always made friends with everybody, and I remember this one, the tiniest kid in our class. He came like 3 days late. And so by then, like, everyone had started making friends, and there's a group of people, and I don't know why I felt this. I mean, to this day, I don't, like, as a kindergartner, like, how do you remember something like this? But I just remember feeling how scared he was, because he was late. He was the littlest kid in kindergarten, and it's kindergarten. Like, for a kid, that's scary.
Yeah.
And
uncharted territory.
Yeah, and I literally felt it, everything. All his anxiety, all his worries, and I don't know why I did this. I just went over to him and I was like, hey man, what's your name? You know, I introduced myself. I'm like, hey, come over here. Here's everyone else. And I kind of like ushered him in. And so I've done that a lot in my life, of like kind of looking out for the little guy, or making sure no one's left behind. And I think it's just a cool kind of thing. Like,
people, there needs to be more empathy in the world, for sure.
Yeah, I'm not saying like, you know, hey, I'm awesome, or whatever.
Going around like rescuing stray dogs and all that.
But maybe, you know, people out there listening will think back to what their first memory was, and maybe connect the dots.
It's been getting me thinking. I'm trying to remember my first memory.
What
too.
about you guys? You know, I don't need to take a break from talking here. I feel like I've been chattering on and on.
I think mine would be, it's just of me laying on our couch in our basement in our house where we grew up, and it's probably around noon. I don't know how old, but before I even had gone to like school or preschool or anything, and my mom's down there, and the sun's just shining through the window onto like this, what are these, like an Afghan blanket that's like laying on, draped over the top of the couch or whatever. And I just remember feeling or being excited because I knew that my dad was going to get off work soon and he'd be coming home. And I was just laying on the couch, and the sun, it was probably around noon because it was shining through there, but just kind of like a warm, like completely before you had any other like worries or thoughts.
Yeah.
Because you're just a fucking little kid.
Yeah. That kind of reminds me of like being a kid and like starting to learn when my dad was coming home.
Learning time.
Hearing what mine would be he would always pull up in the driveway, and the garage door would open. You would hear, and it was like not a remote thing even. It was just like
the push.
Him grabbing the garage door and like, and then him like unloading his tools into the garage, and then I knew that he was about to like walk in the door, and that was like a good like, oh cool, dad's home now. Like,
I get to annoy you now.
Yeah, exactly.
Sweet.
This might be weird, and I might be way off, but do you have a garage door now that has an opener, or is yours a pull?
It is pull.
You, my friend, have just been
Why do you think
mind
that
jacked?
I don't know.
You didn't mind that.
I don't need it. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
It's just like I just get out of the car and grab
works,
the fucking
don't it?
door and throw it up in the air.
And you associated that like awesome feeling, hey, dad's coming home.
Yeah.
That could be true.
I think that's where a lot of my life choices are just like, I want to impress dad, or what would dad do?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
what's the most manly thing, or
Right.
most responsible dad-like thing?
It's like I have a shop. outside of my house.
Got some tools in the shed.
Yeah, you have a good feeling about it, right?
Yeah.
Like it, and if it was remote control, you know, maybe you wouldn't feel so good about having a pole garage. No.
You probably feel a little less.
Yeah.
Of them.
I bet when people look for, and they're like looking to buy a house, that might be like one of the things that they look for is like, well, we got to have an automatic garage door. because like we don't want to go through the trouble of
I
just
kind of
putting
based
one in.
my ideal home off of the home I grew up in.
Yeah.
Because I got lucky enough to stay in the same spot my entire life, and like it was pretty good. It was a good place to grow up, good neighborhood and everything.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, if and when I ever buy a home or whatever, I want something similar layout.
If I have at least that, then I'm doing okay.
I'd be completely okay with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's, so people wonder, like, I don't know, I think this big memory thing is kind of like the strongest one you have or you try to remember is, for me, doing branding, and it's kind of a stretch, it might be to you listening, but those are the first patterns that we learn as human beings, right? And so we develop, like, you'll see, your own one, you might develop that pattern throughout what you do in your life all the time. So it's just think like people that have bad situations growing up, they see bad patterns, and like not everyone's memory is good. So like people wonder like why, maybe do I have a lot of anxiety or these things. You can get really psychological about it if you want. Maybe you can understand why you feel certain ways if you can connect the dots from some of your early memories. Then okay, if it's a bad feeling or it's somewhere you're down this path, maybe you can get out of it because you understand how you developed it. But that's if you have a bad one. But if you have a good one or a decent one, that helps us learn about what you do, and then maybe we can start finding other patterns, like by asking you if you have that one now. So that kind of tells me your home and childhood was good, right? Like
for the most part,
yeah, you enjoyed it. At least you enjoyed Dad coming home,
right?
So that feeling of family to you, I know now is of a good one. You probably have a decent relationship with your father, I would assume.
Yeah.
So it's just finding that, and then going into then keep going, because like that just Dad coming home. You said sun shining, like that's one.
Yeah, that was a very like pretty big part of the memories, having the sun kind of shine through the window shades, and it was perfectly cast like on the couch that I'm laying on. So that, whatever that means.
What do you got?
Just sun warmth. The sun's always like a really strong memory here.
Yeah, it's literally just the biggest ball of fire.
Because that's something like, then I know now, like, okay, that's one of your first ones, and like what you do always. Like sun, people associate the sun with always with good, depending on.
Generally, it's a pretty positive force.
Yeah, so I think like, for branding wise, so some of the stuff that you do in your life is you probably have this general backbone of whatever you do, you want people to feel some of that feeling, or at least like you want people to feel from you, hey, I have this warm kind of good backbone that's strong, and
I want to share that feeling.
Exactly.
It's just a matter of figuring out how.
Yeah. Is that like something that you do?
I'd say that's now that you say it out loud, like it's something I feel like maybe subconsciously.
Yeah, like earlier when we took a break, you asked me if I was good on my water. You know what I mean? Like you generally care about people. I can tell
I want people to be happy around me. That's the biggest goal.
You, because you know what this feeling feels like, right? And you're like, hey, like why else would why would I want to feel anything else but this?
Yeah, that's kind of the main motivator of like living in general. It's just
and sun is it resembles life.
Energy and life.
Without it, we wouldn't have it. So
right.
I mean, there's a lot of things you can pull in. It's just like,
it's really cool though. It's like it's a very reduced, almost like primal image of like an imprint that you want to give to somebody.
Yeah. Just so like if I was doing a logo or something just for you, I'd make sure I have some
kind of sun
circular sun energy colors of that in there, because then I know you would really like it.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's awesome. I didn't know any of this happened in the process of
Yeah, a lot of
designing.
people don't go this
It's very deep, yeah.
Yeah, but I think there's just
gonna do
no
it,
other
you
way
gotta do
to
it right.
Yeah, there's just, I could half-ass a logo for you, but
For sure,
I don't
yeah.
want to be in the business of half-assing logos.
Yeah. That's kind of like you doing my my next like EP art
Yeah, man.
is like it was probably maybe a little bit different, but you wanted the music, which I think was really cool. It's kind of a little bit the same thing. It was like, give me the music, and that kind of says pretty much anything that I will need, because the music is kind of a sum of all of that.
It's like us trying to prep each other before we play a new track. We're like, well, I was thinking about this, blah, blah, blah. And really, it just boils down to hit play. And
Right.
then you'll know instantly.
Exactly, yeah.
But you feel like you have to preface everything with like a preparation and
Right.
like, here is the state of mind I was in. This is, it's not finished,
Right,
whatever.
yeah.
Yeah.
But as long as the general idea gets across, that's all you need.
And that's one thing too, like if I'm ever stuck on something, like with talking to someone or trying to figure out like what's the best route, strategy, or pattern that we could find for someone that they are already existingly have, I always just tell them, play me like one song first. If you were going to play me one song, what would it be? And then I would just go listen to it by myself,
Right.
and that would help me to get there, like, because it's the feeling that people are trying to put out, right? It's just like, as we said earlier, it's just so hard. You just can't do it.
Yeah.
There's no words for the feelings. That's why there's music.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And art and things like that.
It's true.
That's why we do all these seemingly like useless like things just for the hell of it. Just because they're not really useless. It's just how we should. It's like a new language.
Yeah.
It's like the language is art.
Yeah.
That's the common like strand between all culture, and
Yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome. Let me tell you guys.
it's pretty mind-blowing stuff, people. Check out art sometime if you would.
Look up #art.
Yeah.
It's the best one out there. But no, I think it really is, and I think, it just really depends on what you're doing. Like, then we kind of go into this. So, like, if now I kind of understand those things about you guys, we could go deeper into, Dan, like yours. Have you thought of any other memories? If not, then we can keep going.
Yeah, I don't know
Well,
if
like
you got a memory off of you yet.
Well, the dad
garage door.
the dad thing, that was like the first. That's probably the first time I started recognizing patterns in things. Other than that, I think, man, I do remember a Christmas was a pretty big one. And I could picture exactly how kind of like the sun, like the lighting coming in through like a certain room in the house, like a bedroom, and opening a Christmas present, which was a Nintendo 64.
Ooh, that was a
and
good Christmas.
plugging it in with my mom, my dad, and my sister for the first time any of us had ever experienced. Essentially
Like 3D.
real life gaming machine for the time. And sitting down on our like big ass like console, big screen TV, and playing Super Mario and being like, what the
What
fuck?
year is this?
Yeah,
I never want to leave.
mind blowing. But like sitting there as like a family and like exploring this like this very new thing. I was probably I might have been like 4 or something, maybe even younger. Might have been 3. But
I'm so bad with
I don't know if that
my
has
ages.
any value or not. But
Yeah.
No, I think too. So like we can keep going if we want to talk specifically about like this and the podcast is like I would always ask anyone. Let's pretend you guys hired me, and the first thing I would always say is like, okay, well, why should I pay attention to you? Like, why should I go download this? Why should I even listen? Yeah.
So you're asking me that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I would say,
And just tell me, it doesn't, obviously you're not going to have the perfect answer.
I don't
right
have
now.
like a
Right.
perfectly sculpted pitch, but
Yeah.
I think the general idea, from me at least, is to mainly be inspired to do something, maybe whether that be like whether you have a craft or like a thing you do, like music or an art that you pursue, to get some kind of like oomph from it. To like
A jolt.
maybe even turn the podcast off at like halfway through, because you're like so
Feeling
like,
boosted,
oh, I
yeah.
got something, like
Yeah.
that, like hearing that person describe the process of creation in general in this certain way kind of sparked my own brain or my own thoughts,
Yeah.
because I usually get something like that feeling whenever like I do these. And
Yeah.
so it's good to listen back to. I'd say secondary would just be to learn something new, or like learn about something new.
Yeah, like most of this stuff I had no idea about until very recently. Like your process is very like unique, and it's kind of a pretty. It's a somewhat like universal
You can kind
application.
you can apply it to
things.
lots of things.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, I would kind of say the same thing for myself. And also I think it's a reminder, and I was kind of talking about this earlier, but a reminder that we kind of all get caught up in these like life patterns and all this just craziness going on. There's just so much going on all the time around us, and we have jobs and responsibilities, whether
Family.
we want to be
Yeah.
doing them or not. And it's kind of a reminder that there's some things that are possibly more important at hand that we can kind of make use of, and it is kind of like a way to start enjoying things more.
Company for sure.
Yeah, even
Yeah.
like for me, I listen to podcasts pretty much constantly, like driving, because driving is kind of a big thing where people
It's like their me time.
well, that, but like most people, they have this pattern because they're doing it every single day, and you're kind of driving, and then you just get to the place where you're going, and you've just lost like half an hour of your time, and you were mindlessly driving. There was nothing. You're on like autopilot, and a podcast makes me very
You're engaged.
yeah, and it's like a mental
That's true.
workout kind of.
I rarely drive. I usually sit into my car, and the first thing I do is figure out either like what am I going to listen to music wise, or which podcast am I going to put on before I even like turn the car on. Basically, I'm ready. I'm like, that's more important to me.
Yeah,
The drive time itself.
yeah,
It's like I gotta set the setting for all of it.
yeah. And I mean, and maybe people don't listen to our podcast on the way to work, but they listen to something that they enjoy, and they don't just turn
Flip the station, like
flip the stereo on to country music radio or something. Maybe they take a little bit extra time and I don't know.
which sometimes that's okay, because sometimes
it's
I get
fine.
burnt out and I just want to listen to like
Sometimes you do want to zone out.
what's
but
some oldies. Put some oldies on.
you definitely want to zone out sometimes, but
Yeah.
at the same time, like
Or audiobooks is another good one. You can,
audiobooks are awesome too, but sometimes like it's like you kind of forget about this stuff, and then like 2 years goes by,
yeah.
and you're just driving to work.
You just wake up out of your dream state, and you're like, you got some gray hair.
Yeah. Yeah.
You have like a couple mortgages. And you're wondering how you got there.
Yeah, and this is
You just woke up out of a fugue state. Yeah.
and the podcast is just we're just trying to say, hey, I've woken up out of this dream state. Join me.
Yeah.
You know,
It's a good way. To put it.
It's nice here.
It's a good good opportunity just to like we have to, whether we want to or not, hang out once a week at least.
Yeah.
And sit down and just like chat,
Yeah.
and hopefully have like a new guest over and make a new friend.
And we're not talking about like once in a while it comes up, but generally we're not talking about like news or
we're talking about like what's going
politics. We're kind of more about like what at least I feel like is important.
It's like what's current to me, not necessarily like world news.
Yeah.
So then I think deeper thing I picked up first is like, you guys believe obviously it's important to learn, right? Mm-hmm. Break up the normal monotony days with some interesting nuggets of wisdom, right? That you might not have ever picked up on if you would have never clicked play or download this, right? So that's kind of like that. That's more the feeling that you want to give people. It's like, hey, we know your days like this. We know it's it's boom, boom, boom. We're gonna give you a in there.
We'll give you something to look forward to in between, your
exactly. So
your city drives.
So that's where I would start with your guys' space, right? In people's mind or your listeners' mind. That is what you should go for.
That's our nook.
And then now, your guys' homework or research or whatever homework. I fucking hate that word, but it's really important is to go. I think that's a general thing of many podcasts, right? So I think a bigger thing is then now you got to get into content, right? Because certain people want to laugh, but I think you guys more importantly want to learn. Mm-hmm. So my next question would be is why do you think that that's more important than, not say more important, but more interesting or whatever? Mm-hmm. Like, where did you guys learn that learning is important?
I would say just from the way I learned to learn as a child, I guess, and autodidact, if I think that's the right word for it, but like just being more comfortable learning something by myself than having someone show me a way.
Mm-hmm. Did you see someone else like an older parent or something who did that?
I don't know necessarily if it's probably all stems back to just like watching Dad, do stuff around the yard, and like he always seemed to just have the right thing for whatever job it was, or he knew how to, whatever it was, like the faucet broke or whatever. It's like, oh yeah, I know how to fix that.
Yeah,
always prepared to do whatever.
Mm-hmm. My dad is even now probably still teaches me something every time we get together. Like he's always got a kind of like, did you know?
Yeah.
Like kind of thing.
It's like, hey,
what if with whatever we're doing?
Big shot. Don't get too full of yourself now.
Yeah. Because unfortunately, when we hang out, it's usually like, hey, Dad, I have like a problem, like the fucking lawnmower's jacked up or whatever, and like, and then he won't just do it for you. He wants to teach you, and that way you can eventually one day you'll be able to just do all these things.
Yeah. I think like self-reliance has always been a big part of my life too. It's just like, I don't want, if I can avoid it, I don't want to annoy anyone basically with little problems that I can learn how to solve myself.
Yeah, because you saw your dad do that too, and likewise, like with yours as well. It's like, I think, there's probably a title already, but like, this something that I feel like energy type of here is like, it is a did you know? It's like, hey, did you know like this weird guy from St. Louis is going to come over? He lives in Kansas City now, and he can talk to us about branding. Yeah. Did you know that?
Yeah, like let's blow your mind. Yeah.
I had zero idea when I woke up this morning that this was going to be happening.
Yeah. And so I think, it's always good too, because then that pattern that you guys learned as children and through your dads, that's a strong thing. And so it's something that and that it benefits other people too, because you've benefited from it yourselves. Mm-hmm. So I think one of the things that you guys do in this is that would be your main focus. It's obviously still having fun and being yourselves. Like, don't just like, hey, we got to get all serious and teach people things.
Yeah,
yeah. It's a hard balance. Yeah,
always put your own spin on it. But I think the core thing, like, even though you might not lead with it, like your story about the son, that to me, you've like instantly that was like boom, that was extremely strong for you. But then there's other things you kind of filtered in there. But I knew like that was like kind of your back bone to the memory, right? And so that's kind of what you want to do with this, and it sounds like it's similar. It's like, hey, we're gonna have fun, there's gonna be these other things, but know that you're gonna still have this warm
that's
feeling.
your anchor right there.
Yeah, when you're done listening, you're gonna get that, right? So I don't know if that makes sense or not.
That totally makes sense.
Yeah.
But then then it's always good to then go into from there. It is always doing things with that type of feeling, and then now go out and look for other podcasts and see if they are doing that same type of thing. If they are, how can you do it better? How can you do it different? How can you differentiate yourself from them? Are you better? And be objective about it. I think that's the right word. And if you aren't, how can you be better, right? And that's you guys already understand that learning is better, and you're doing this now, so you understand that. Like for me, like I think maybe why we linked up is because that's something I also strongly believe in. Like I could be playing video games or whatever. I could just be sitting at home watching TV right now. But like I came over here because I wanted to do this, because like I think it's awesome what you guys are doing. I think it's really cool.
Thank you.
Number one. Number two, I think it's I don't know, it's just a cool way to spend a Saturday night, so it's a different way to do it. And so I learned early on from my grandma, that like the power of learning, right? And my dad would always say this shit too, like, "What'd you learn today, Sean?"
Yeah.
And I'd be like, "Nothing, Dad." Leave me alone. But I'm really glad he did always say that, because like that is really what I think, more importantly, like life is about. At least the life I want. Same probably with you guys. Is like, what I learned today. I don't want to keep doing the same shit.
My dad said that too. I just totally forgot until you mentioned that. It's like it was a big. And I always said the same thing too. I was like, I don't know, nothing. Jeez, like, leave me alone.
But I think so over time sinks in. I think my grandma never worked. She took care of the house and the kids and everything. And her story's kind of crazy. Like she was, I think her mom passed away early, and her dad remarried, and her stepmom was just like this conniving, crazy bitch, and she had her own kids. And this was like back in, she was born in like 1923 or something crazy like that. And so back then, she basically was kicked out of the house by her stepmom, and she was raised and took in by like the town doctor, and he taught her, like self-taught, like got her caught up on all her schooling. And then she immediately realized, like, hey, my way out of wherever I'm at, I was lucky enough to have this doctor in 30 something, when like that wasn't a big thing. Not a lot of people graduated even high school. Like I understood how important it was to learn and where it could get you, and that was always a common thread throughout her life. And every day throughout her life, she would study. She would read a book, have her books on the table. She would look up the author. This was pre-internet, right? So she tried to find everything she could about the author. She said, "Sean, when you read those books, you gotta look up the authors, because you never know where they're coming from." Shit like that. And so, but she was right. Like, when people read books, you don't really know who the author is. But she was right, and that helps you kind of understand how they write it and where they're coming from if you know about them. But also, like, till the day she died, she studied every day. She didn't have to do that. I mean, she was like, she died, she was like 88 or 89, around there, and still had books on her table. Damn. So like that's where I learned that learning is something very powerful, right? And so I think it's, if that's something you believe and that's where you want to go with this, so that's your kind of like, not even your niche, right? Like you could talk about niches, but podcasts, there's really no niches anymore.
It's one for everything. Yeah,
very few, like, I mean, but you literally just, now it's like, okay, we have this thing, now with everything we do, we want to make that like learning that has to be like a common thread through everything, like colors, through the design, the logo, more importantly, how you talk and the feeling you give. You guys already have that, I mean, down, because you kind of know. This is 11 or 12 episodes in, so you understand that part. Now it's just having everything else match. So whether it's a name or a tagline, or whatever. Taglines are oftentimes the hardest, because it's like, how do we say this thing where we want people to feel from this, even though, our brains can't process the feelings into words. So it's like, for me, I learned a lot from Jake, because he's extremely good at that. It's something that leans into a story, right? Like a statement. It's not like, here's what we do. We're, two guys in Kansas City, and we talk about people learning. Like that's not inspiring, or it doesn't even lead into anything. Like,
you gotta word it like that. It just sounds really shitty. I don't even want to listen to that.
You gotta hook them, right? Yeah. And I think it's easy to hook with the podcast. I feel like the name's almost everything.
It is, yeah.
That's kind of been thinking about that too.
Hey, I'm always open.
Yeah.
We just kind
of came up
with, we need a name. We took like an hour or two.
Yeah.
Like, okay, we just got to get something going. So yeah.
What do you think about it?
I'm not in love with it.
Yeah, I feel like we could, now that we have a better idea of what we're actually doing, we can come up with a name that sort of
is this pretty normal for
yes
okay
kind of restructuring
yeah and that's okay too, because it's like, oh, I already started this with this name, and
it's like, okay,
it's like, well, I mean, depending on where they're at, it's like,
cut
if
your
you
losses.
Believe more in this understanding of what you're doing and why you're doing it and who you want to do it for, and hopefully that's not, I know it's not with you guys, but people listening, like, if what you want to do is for yourself, I would highly recommend not doing that.
Right.
If it's strictly because you want people to feel a certain way about you, or you want to tell the world, hey, look at me, it's like, maybe, okay, go buy a Coach purse, or Chanel, whatever, and that way you can wear the feeling you want people to think of you. Like, that's just ridiculous. So if that's what you're doing, stop doing it. And I think that's the biggest thing. One, kind of, after talking with a lot of people about this, and specifically helping them, right, biggest thing that I'm kind of starting to learn by doing it is that the really successful ones, no matter what, even if they don't have like a good brand or whatever, they just really, I feel like they really mean it. They really care for, not themselves, for whatever their causes or that belief. Like, it's more than them, it's something else, it's part of a bigger thing. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the movie Disaster Artist or not. Oh my god. So
that sounds really familiar.
So there's this like cult movie that was released.
Oh, is that what's his last name? Is it about the director guy?
Yes. Yeah.
I vaguely I've never seen it, but yeah, go on.
So James Franco is the guy I think you're probably trying to think of. He played the actual guy. So there's this guy in real life, right? No one knows. You just kind of have to watch it, because it's all like true. He has this like Eastern Russian accent, but he's I don't know if it's Russian or whatever, but it's
weird.
Not from America, right? So he tells people he's from New Orleans. and his like big thing, he moved to LA and joined this acting class, and he met up with this other guy who was trying to act, and he like lied about his age, where he was from. Only he cared about was making it and being famous, right? Being a famous actor. And so like it's just I think probably after like kind of looking at him and knowing someone in my life who's extremely similar, not in the acting way but in their personality, who they are, I think he probably has like a slight form of like Asperger's or something, because he's socially just not understanding cues and things like that. But it's a hilarious movie, and it's actually on YouTube. And it's called The Room is the name of the real movie.
I know what you're talking about.
And it's like it has this giant cult following, and it literally is the worst movie that has ever been made.
Yeah.
So he heard. No one would hire him, whatever. He somehow had like all this money, and until this day no one knows how old he is, where he's from, and how he got the money. The budget was said to be like $6 to $8 million for the movie, and he produced everything, but no one knows where he got them. Like how did this guy get this money?
He funded it.
Yeah. And it was just so bad that it was good.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But I think for me, like, it was like he just really, really, really meant it and wanted it. Like he's just, you know,
it was all genuine.
yeah. And I think, you know, something lined up for him. Things came out, and while it wasn't famous in his mind of how he wanted it to be, right?
But damn it, it's famous.
Yeah, and it still makes. I'm sure it's making. They do like shows every year.
Yeah.
And people go, and it's like an event, because it's just such a. It literally is such a bad movie that now, and then people go to see how bad it is, right?
It's a spectacle.
So it's made like a lot of money, and like you would have never thought, like, you know what I mean, like, so a bigger thing out there, like, you know, if who's ever listening, and in general, like, you know, you might not have all the resources, but when it comes down to it, just make sure you really mean it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Bottom line, make sure.
And I feel like if
put your soul into it.
Yeah, if that's what you're doing, then you really, no matter what, you can't go wrong.
Right.
But
that's good, man.
Yeah.
That's what I would say. And I mean, that's really, you know, really the most important thing, I think. It's kind of where you start, and then after that, it's all kind of just putting the pieces together in a way that maybe you haven't looked at it yet.
Right.
And I think my job and Jake's job is to kind of help rearrange that, understand it, and then say, okay, well, here's this. And then I always, like, if I don't get a reaction, it's like, oh my God, yes.
Yeah.
You know, well, I don't want to, I'm just like, okay, well, we'll keep going until we get that.
Right.
Because that's important. And also understanding of, like, hey, like, do I think that that's, like, if I was you, and let's just say you hired us and we did, like, you know, brand guidelines and the whole brand identity, who you are, maybe renaming, some naming options. If I was presented this as you, I would be like, holy shit, that's awesome. You know, like, that's what, so I don't want to do anything that's not, like, on that level. And I think you shouldn't. I don't know. I just believe everyone deserves that.
It's really cool. That's a good standard to hold yourself to.
Yeah. So sometimes it takes longer than usual.
Yeah.
But it's always worth it, I think.
Yeah, man.
I sure agree. Yeah.
That's good. Your intentions are all in the right place, which I think makes a huge difference, for sure. You know.
Yeah, I don't know if we can get into, like, an example of one that we've kind of gone through all the way through, and then see it one, or however you guys want to do it. If you think that's, like, a good,
go for it.
Good end, then we can end. It's up to you guys.
I don't know. How long are
we're at an hour and a half right now, but I'm getting pretty, like, worn down.
I am too. I think we might call it.
Yeah. Like, I could go on, but I don't know if I want to, like. I think if everyone agrees that we should stop, then we shouldn't torture ourselves. You know.
Well, and it's not like we can't.
Yeah, we can do.
I mean, you live.
We'll definitely probably do another one or more of these.
Yeah.
if you're
Yeah.
up for it.
We'll continue
yeah.
this on. I think.
Yeah, there's so many
we got,
things. Like,
literally.
we went real like skimmed over the top high level. You know?
It's usually how it goes, and we always
Yeah.
end up going. Next one, we'll for sure delve into this topic that we touched on because there's so many little offshoots that we get on.
Yeah.
Little tangents.
But
It's
yeah.
all part of the fun.
So yeah, we'll probably call it there.
Yeah.
But thanks for coming, dude.
Dude, yeah, man.
I
was a good time,
I
yeah.
greatly enjoyed this.
Dude, me too, man. Like you said, it feels like I just got here.
Yeah. Thanks for coming and
Yeah.
sweating in this attic with us.
Yeah. And to for people that want to kind of take a look at some of the stuff you've done, where can they find you?
Oh yeah, so you can check out my website. It's still a little bit under construction, so make sure you try to look at it on your desktop or your laptop.
Yeah.
But it's stratco.com, and there's a dash in there, so STRAT-CO. The guy who owns Strat.co won't return my phone call.
Just holding out.
He's just got...
It's like they'll come knocking.
Yeah, so hopefully, but yeah, that, and then obviously you can see some of the work on there: photography, logo design, branding, and then you can also, if you're interested in some of Jake's writing, you can just go to jakehauska.com.
How do you spell his last name?
Houska.
Hauska. Like it sounds. Okay.
Yeah.
Like a house. On them. But yeah, then he's got some really. The guy's just really. He's really talented, man.
Yeah.
Glad
He is,
I know
man.
that guy.
He is a creative driving force for sure.
Sounds
Okay.
like that. Might have to have him on as
Yeah.
well.
Glad I called that guy.
Yeah, man.
Well, thanks for coming, man. And yeah, we'll make this happen again. We'll dive into some more stuff.
Yeah, man. If anyone wants to go specific stuff, say, hey, I want him to talk about that more.
Yeah,
Or give examples. We could do that next time, too.
absolutely.
Let these guys know. Also, I don't know if you guys heard Future Phantoms, Spotify.
Hey, I like
Check
it.
it out, man. I'm not just plugging it because, I like this guy. He is making some good music.
Well, thanks, man.
That's a good plug. That's a good genuine
Yeah,
plug.
I
right
never
there.
plug my own shit on here. I probably should, but that's
man.
I need to get better at that.
That's what
It's
he's
hard to
here
do
for.
that.
I do make
It's hard.
music, and it's on Spotify.
Yeah.
So check it out.
It's real vibey, man. You guys would like it. It's good stuff.
All right, man. Well, thanks a
Yeah.
lot.
Thanks again.